Great. Okay, friends. So I'm glad you're here. I'm going to, as usual, start out with a few announcements, but then I want to get into a lesson that you probably already know the answer to, but maybe you don't. And this is like just encouragement. But honestly, I think most of you guys know how to do some of these things. I'm going to give you some of my hacks for how I do it all, because I have people often say, how do you do it all? And it's like, I don't, but I have systems that help me. And I know many of you have these same systems. So first, I want to remind you about the specials happening. We have got the Flora and Flow on BOGO for while supplies last. We also have the Mood and Mind sale. So like Stress Relief Complex and MindWorks, those are hot sellers. So those are really good ones to be talking about. And then of course, Salted Caramel. Salted Caramel is selling faster than they expected. So if you didn't get it yet, make sure you grab it or let your customers know because they're going to want to get it. It is so, so good. Okay. I am also planning on doing like a welcome for or like a member appreciation, and I'll give you more details on that, but that's something that you can be a part of as well. It's all going to be online. Julie, did you have a question? I saw you unmuted. Oh, or maybe not. Okay, good. Okay, so here's what I want to talk about on systems that help and that you can do. Okay, so but the first thing I want to tell you before I tell you the systems and how I do it all is you might look at my business and you see all the volume and you say, how do you do it all? She must be so busy. And the truth is, I'm really not. I am busy, but I have systems in place. And the reason that volume is there is because I did the hardest work, which is inviting new people to take a look. That is truly the hardest work we do in our business. And it is still the hardest work for me to do because it's vulnerable, you guys, right? You're putting yourself out there. You're asking someone if they want to come to an event at your house or online, or they want to take a look, they want to learn more, and you're putting yourself out there for rejection. This is a rejection-based business. So that asking new people to take a look is the hardest thing we do in our business. And it really does take the most mental energy to do the hardest things because we have to be in a good place. And there's some days I'm not in a good place mentally, and it's not a good day for me to invite a new person to take a look at my business, right? But it's good to know that because the majority of where my numbers come from every month are from my customers that were once a new customer and are now returning customers. And so I want you to keep that in mind, that really the way that you build a less stress business is having those return customers. But what you have to do is you have to do the hard work first of inviting them to take a look and getting some people that say, this is stupid and I don't want to do it. And other people that say, thank you for asking. I was looking for something like this. And so, but because I've done that work, pretty much anytime there's a new special, Flora and Flow, hey guys, there's a new protein shake flavor. I put it out in my Facebook group where my customers are at, or I send an email because I've got a system for my email, or I even send a text message. I have a system for text messages. I put it in my stories because my customers are my friends on social media. People buy. It is amazing to me how if you just tell people, they will buy. And the people that are buying are all people that have once been my new customer and are no longer a new customer anymore. They're returning customers. And so I think some people, when they start this business, think I can just post about a product and people will click on it and buy it. And we all know, we've been in this long enough, we know that doesn't happen. You actually have to talk to people first. But then after that, once they're a new customer, then they get to that point that they click on stuff and buy it because you told them about it, because they saw it in your stories or they saw it on Facebook. So keep that in mind, that the hardest work we do is inviting new people to take a look at this business or at the products. Hosting a new event. So if you host something at your house, and I know Julie's got that coming up, so I'm cheering you on, Julie. But we also have, in-person, online events. If you do the work for those, it will pay you forever, but that's the hardest work. Okay. So when I started my business, I was pregnant with my second kid. I didn't have a lot of time, but what I committed to was at least 1, maybe 2 events per month, not per week, you know, there's some people that are working a lot harder than me, but for me, I said, all I can handle is 1 or 2 events a month. And I have kind of done that. I've had months that I've skipped it too. But I've done 1 or 2 new events a month. But even I'll tell you, I'll tell you my next secret. So yeah, but that's just think about how you could do 1 or 2 events that are designed to bring in new people a month, whether you host a Zoom online or a Facebook event, or you invite people over. Okay. How could you do that? So here's my next tip though that goes with it. My next tip is batching. You guys know what batching is, right? It's doing a lot of the same thing over and over again. Kind of like when you get out all the ingredients and the pots and pans to make a batch of cookies. Instead of making a dozen, you make a bunch because you're like, well, I got all this stuff out anyway. I may as well make a bunch and freeze some of it, right? I tend to do that. Maybe you don't do that, but I have found that saves me time, because if I just made a dozen cookies and I went to all that work, I'm the one that doesn't want to get out all the pots and pans and the sugar and the flour and all the things again. I would rather just make a big batch and do it all together. And that's how I've done my business, is if I'm hosting an event, what I've found is I often batch my events. So a lot of times I will do my events close together, like a Thursday night and a Saturday morning, because the idea is, well, if I had to clean my house anyway, if I'm having people over, then I'm going to batch that work and I'm going to clean for my Thursday event. And then I don't have to keep it clean for too long between Thursday and Saturday, right? So that also means I'm going to do a lot of inviting, because I could get people at one of these 2 events, Thursday or Saturday. Also, I can have like the program in my mind of what I'm doing at Thursday and Saturday kind of the same, because the different people will be there, but I already kind of know what I'm doing because this is my system. I know that they're going to come in and they're going to get a smoothie, or they're going to have some protein balls, and then we're going to sit down, we're going to do a little presentation, we're going to do some pampering, whatever. Like, it's all in my mind and I just repeat it. So batching can work really well for your business. So that's how I batch like my events, is I often do 1 event, but it's really 2 events because it's the same event, just repeated. Okay. So that's one way to do it, is you can batch for events, but also it means I batch inviting. Inviting is the hardest part, once again, because it's vulnerable. What will people think? What will people say? And I have found the hardest invite to do is the first invite. When I just pick up my phone and I send somebody a text and I'm like, oh, what are they going to think? What are they going to think? And then I send it and then I go, well, I didn't die. That wasn't that hard. Maybe I could do that again. And then next thing you know, I can crank out maybe 20 invites after I did the first one, which is the hardest one. And even the second one is still hard. And the third one is hard. But by the time I get maybe even 5 done, I start looking at my list, and there were people on my list that before I was like, I don't think I can invite them. And all of a sudden I start going, actually, maybe I could invite them. What's the big deal? It's just an invite. Raise your hand if you've done this before. If you've invited new people because you were batch inviting and you talked yourself into new people. Yes, that's how it should be, right? That's how it should be. People can say what they want to say, but they usually don't. Nobody dies in this process. And usually people feel valued that you thought of them. And I also find that the inviting process, just inviting people to my event, even if they can't come, still grows my business, because it starts the conversation. And they go, well, I can't make that event, but I've been meaning to talk to you about protein powder. Perfect. I just opened up the conversation because I invited them to an event they can't come to. So doing batch inviting is also really good. Just get yourself in a place and start cranking out those invites, and they get easier when you batch it. Okay. So let me tell you something else I batch. I will batch my easier activities like customer follow-up, because the hardest part, like I said, is new people. But whenever I look at my email and I say, oh, hey, my friend Delina placed an order. I haven't heard from her in a while. And I see these things coming in my email. It's great. And there's a level you maybe want to send a thank you note right away. But if I quick text a thank you note, then it gets me derailed from what I'm in the process of doing. So thank you notes are something that I tend to batch. Like if I'm sitting in a car waiting for a kid, or maybe I'm at like a basketball tournament and my kid is sitting on the sidelines or something like that. I have to be somewhere and I've got to be somewhat present. What I'll do is I'll use my phone and I'll write in the notes section my thank you note. Oh, hey, it was so great to see that order from you. Thank you so much. Will you let me know what you think of the salted caramel or whatever they got? And then I might also, anytime I send a thank you note, I also maybe try to also sell them something else, which means I'll say, hey, I just saw this really great webinar on stress. And feel free to listen to this. It's a free webinar and you can listen to it while you're cleaning your kitchen. By the way, our stress products are on sale this month. Something like that. Often whenever I'm sending a thank you, I send something free, and the free is often a webinar to learn more. And so then I'm introducing them to new products that they maybe didn't already order so that they become a lifelong customer and they're using multiple products. And I'll probably have a similar email that I send to many other customers, but I'll just change a couple parts. You'll have to tell me what you think of the calcium magnesium. You have to tell me what you think of the new ageless wands, because I'll look at their order, see what they got, and try to interact on that level. But then I also have, by the way, I just saw this really great webinar on stress. And so I'll send it to you and feel free to listen to it while you're cleaning the kitchen. By the way, stress products are on sale this month too, if you want help with that. Easy peasy, right? So that's another way that I batch my activities, is saying thank you. And I just leave them in my email until I get to them. And the nice thing is Shaklee will put a link to their email address. So all you got to do is click on it and then you write your email. And then if I have it saved in my phone under notes section, then it's click and paste, change names, easy and done. Okay. So that's another thing that you can batch, is those thank you notes and emails and stuff like that. And like I said, that is how you keep your business going. And that's really not that hard, and that's easy to do in other places. Okay. All right. So like I said, the first one I want to tell you is, remember that the hardest thing you do is inviting new people. And so make sure you're doing something to invite new people. Second is that batching of activities. Batch your work, do it over and over, and it gets easier. And then the third is time blocking. I was just talking with someone about this weekend, so it reminded me how valuable this is. In fact, there is a mom, she's a mom of 6 that I have been talking to about the business, because I see what a hard worker she is, and I know she would be amazing at this business. And we keep talking, and she's always busy, but she's interested, but she's always busy. And so anyway, I got her to commit to listen to a webinar. And so I checked in with her today, said, hey, did you get a chance to listen to that webinar? And she said, oh, thank you for reminding me. I didn't see the last message with the webinar in it, but I'll put it on my paper calendar this week, because nothing gets done if I don't put it on my paper calendar. And I was like, that's why I want you on my team. Because and this is how it's because she's a mom of 6. She's had to figure it out how to run life with a busy world, right? And so anyway, so I do have a Google Calendar. The Google Calendar keeps our family knowing where my husband is going, where I'm going, where the kids are going. Okay. So the Google Calendar is helpful, but the Google Calendar, I don't want to have to look at that to organize my life, because if I have to open up my phone to know what I'm doing next, I will get distracted with a cat video or Facebook or something else. Right. And so having a paper calendar is so helpful. And this is how my paper calendar looks. You could have a different one, but what I like is that it tells me the hours. And then I put in there, oh, we've got our team call today, and here's what we're talking about. And then I got to take my kiddo to karate, and I got to remember I'm bringing egg cartons for my friend. I've got all these things. The other nice thing about mine is that it gives me some blank space at the bottom, so I could put in there what my top priorities for the day are. That's nice if your calendar gives you that. Also, ours gives me stuff at the top where I can put my weekly goals. And so having something where you're writing down what you want to get done is so good, but it also helps okay, well, where is my time today? I knew I had most of my time to get business done earlier today before the team call. And then, pretty much once my kids get home, they take over. We got to take them places. We got to do things and stuff like that. So, so that's where my time blocking comes. So then, one last thing that kind of goes with time blocking is remember what your high brain activities are and your low brain activities are. What I mean is, what do you need a lot of brain energy for? And what do you not need a lot of brain energy for? Do the stuff that takes a lot of brain energy early in the day, or look at your time and say, okay, I've got this time. This is the time I'm going to work on that hard stuff, and not put it off till the end of the day when my brain is tired. And so when I think about high brain activities, it's usually the stuff I'm putting off because I have to think about it. Maybe it's writing an email. Maybe it's writing a complicated email, a hard email. Maybe it's figuring out a presentation. Maybe it's inviting people. That's high brain activity stuff that takes work and mental energy to do. And it's not as easy to do like when my kids are home. But my low brain activities are things I could do when my kids are home. And that's things like doing my dishes, doing laundry, making meals, prepping for meals, stuff like that, sorting vitamins. These are all things that I do when my kids are home and around, because I can multitask and I can talk to them while I'm doing dishes. So for instance, like my kids tend to have oatmeal every morning. Oatmeal sticks to plates or sticks to dishes, right? So they know the oatmeal goes in the empty bowls go in the sink with water on top of them when they're done, and they sit. And they sit there, and we don't wash them right away because we don't have time. And I know that once they're out the door, that's my time to work. So I let it sit. And my husband often comes home for lunch. And when he comes home for lunch, that's usually when I start rinsing out the bowls and putting them in the dishwasher. And I have to just be okay with mess for a little while, knowing that when it's the right time, I will get that done, because then I can talk to him while I'm rinsing out bowls. And it doesn't, that's not really that hard to multitask with. We all do those kind of things all the time. In a lot of ways, I pay more attention to him when I'm doing something with my hands rather than just sitting and looking. So, but that's how I work. So, so think about certain activities, because as a mom, it feels so good to get those dishes done. And we feel like we did something. But if we're doing it at the time that our brain should be doing a high brain activity, like inviting people or writing an email, getting a presentation ready, the hard stuff that we're putting off, if we're doing that early in the day, then later in the day, we're definitely not going to feel like doing it. And then that's how this stuff ends up never getting done, because we end up there's going to always be laundry, there's going to always be dishes, there's going to always be food that we have to make. But if we can do that when we're around the family and we're having conversations and we're making things together and we're cleaning dishes together, then you're not ignoring your family for your business, right? And also you don't need that like mental energy to do dishes, right? So anyway, so that has been really helpful in understanding to just put off certain activities and be okay with a little bit of mess until the right time to clean it up. And that's been really helpful for me. So does anybody have any tips that have been helpful for you in multitasking, in mom life? In like the people that are the most successful at this business are the busiest people. So I'm going to guess that there's some hacks you guys have figured out on how to maximize your time. So does anybody have anything that they are comfortable sharing with the group before we're done?
I started doing time blocking several years ago when Alyssa first told me about it. And I've kind of done it off and on. And this fall, I made a time block by day of the week. And I didn't put hours on it because that seemed a bit too strict for me. But I listed like the 3 things that I'm going to do on Mondays. So on Mondays, I do the household receipts and I plan the events at the refugee center that I'm going to do that week. And I do my Shaklee reach out and I post a story. So I have those 3 things written down. And I know that I have between when the kids go to school and when they come back from school, because I don't work outside the home on Mondays, I know I have that time. So even if you don't do a specific hour of the day, you could still list like, these are the 3 tasks I'm going to do every Monday. And then I just know every Monday, this is what I do. And it makes it easier.
Yes, I'm so glad you shared that, Sarah, because I think it's important for everybody to know our brains all work differently. And some people feel really controlled by a schedule or like having stuff scheduled out, and they don't like that. But you could still like have a plan by just saying, this is what I do on Mondays, and even for me, like I may have it all written out, and it's important to look at that. And this morning I was doing other things and I was like, I don't want to look at what I need to do. And guess what? It wasn't as productive as a morning as it could have been. But you know what? Sometimes our brains are like that and they just need a break. My mother-in-law ended up showing up and we chatted a little bit, and I did laundry while I was talking to her, so I wasn't multitasking. But you know, like I encourage you to figure out what works for you, and also give yourself grace within whatever system you use. Because I didn't even follow my own system perfectly today. But I'm still getting stuff done, and I'm still here for our 1 o'clock meeting, right? So yeah, think about what works for you and give yourself grace within whatever system you use. That's really good. Anything else to share, friends? Okay, awesome. Well, smile for a picture. Since we're here, we're going to have to like crop you in, Christy. All right. So glad you could make it, and we'll see you next week. All right, friends, I'm cheering you on, and I encourage you to write down what you got from this meeting and do it, whatever your takeaway is. All right. Bye.